All right, fine. I'll be a gracious host. How you doing?
Little Mermaid is the scariest Disney movie by far, though.
Why the hell is Ace Blade in your Kickstarter?
Some comics. I'm getting controversial today. We're gonna get controversial today with
my proudest moment is this interview and being able to talk to you two.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Taurus Comics, in collaboration with Fourth Wall Productions, respectfully brings to you the 128th episode of the Four Tales podcast. I am your host, Kyron Silva from Taurus Comics. Across the way is the plum reporter of Ace Blade, Danny J. Quick, and together we are your two award-winning blurred comic creators here to help you find your next favorite comic. We are live on the Age of Geekdom Network via Facebook, Twitter. No, we're not on Twitter anymore. Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok. So if you're listening or watching us live, thank you for your support. But don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and review this podcast because all your positive reviews, interactions help us reach a bigger audience.
You got to rewrite it.
I know.
Yeah, you got to take Twitter out. They started charging us for stuff, and we can't. Now we don't have access to it anymore. You can't say it. You got to be honest.
I know. And I feel like Facebook's slowly going to that same thing. Like they've been doing some updates recently that makes me feel like they're gonna be like, hey, you want to stream live with us? You got to pay us $5 a month, and I'm not going to do that.
That's all right. Well, as long as we're on the Agents of Geekdom Network, we'll let them worry about that.
That's right. All right, what's up, Danny? How you doing this week?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I hope you've been doing all right. You staying cool?
No. Oh, okay. It has been 100 degrees, upper 90s all week up until Wednesday.
Okay.
It's literally been that for like the last 2 months straight, like almost every day, upper 90s, 100 degrees. Yesterday it was upper 80s, mid 80s. Today it's mid 70s.
Well, that's good. Mid 70s is good.
I know it is. It's great.
Yeah.
I hate this weather.
We got a cold front coming through here. Like we had a bunch of storms out here the last week or so, the last 2 weeks. But I went to work this morning and I was like, "Ooh, it's kind of chilly out here." Like I literally walked out the door like, "Ooh, what's going on?" So it's starting to cool down here too.
Okay. Well, I do. Before we bring our guests on, I do want to. Let me see if I've got. I hope I uploaded. I hope I uploaded this. Oh, I did not.
Come on now, Kyron.
Wait. I got it. So I want to talk about this video that I saw floating around the interwebs today.
This can't be good.
What?
This can't be good. Kyron's surprisingly never good.
I'm excited for it, and I'm going to show our viewing audience the video, and I can't wait to see this. So let's go ahead and watch this.
Sketch cover from my guy Kyron Silva over at Taurus Comics. He wanted me to draw his character, Saw the Lightning Wielder, on a horse as payback for me making him draw horses all these times. I hope you like it, bro.
I knew it. See? I told you it would be this week.
That came out amazing. Oh, are we going to see it?
I got the pack. It's already packaged up.
Oh.
I got to drop it off at the post office in the morning.
Okay. I'm excited. I mean, I get the first ever. Well, you've done a sketch cover before, but
yeah, I've done sketch covers before, but
I get the first.
I've never drawn Saw on an Ace Blade sketch cover before, or a horse. This is the first time I've drawn a horse sketch cover too.
That shit is hard, isn't it?
It's difficult, man. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Yeah, that's what I feel like when I'm drawing Ballad of the Black Rose for you. And I'm like, I hate drawing horses. Why did it have to be a Western? Why is this a Western? Why can't it be a superhero?
It was a good idea, but it was also a bad idea at the same time. And speaking of bad ideas, we have an amazing guest on this week. If you've read comic books, you've probably read his work because from Top Shelf to Disney to Valiant to DC. He's written it all. He's written it all. And we're going to talk about some Superman stuff, but also the stuff with Bad Idea that's coming out right now. Robert Venditti is in this show. How are you,
I
sir?
appreciate you all having me on for episode 128. 127 other people before y'all got to me, but I guess that's all right. At least I'm not 129. Right? Yeah.
Well, see, we had Dinesh on a few months ago, and we asked him at that point, can we have Robert on? He's like, no, don't have Robert on. He's a horrible.
Make him wait until you're in the triple digits.
Right.
Yeah.
Terrible.
We thank you for being on, Robert.
No, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Now, Danny did a great job going over some of your accolades and the books that you worked on. But for anybody that maybe doesn't know who you are, do you mind giving us a very small, introduction for yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm a comic book writer. Been writing comics, I don't know, probably close to 20 years now. Not quite, but started out doing my own independent things. I did a book called The Surrogates for, at the time, a small press company called Top Shelf. They're now an imprint of IDW. That was my first miniseries and graphic novel. Got adapted into a film, and so that kind of helped get my career started in a lot of ways. I've done a lot of adaptation work. I adapt all the Percy Jackson novels and make comics out of those.
Are you just realizing that his book was from the movie? Is that what's happening?
That was the Bruce Willis. I just realized that. Yeah. Literally at this moment. And
there you go. See, I would have been on in maybe number 93 if you knew. You know what I mean? Yeah.
If only I would have known. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go
ahead. Yeah, so I make comics out of all the Percy Jackson books. Those are very popular. And then done a lot of work for DC. Wrote Green Lantern for 80-something issues. The Flash, Justice League, do Superman 78. And I've also started doing a lot of projects for Bad Idea, which is sort of a newish publisher. They're about 4 years old now, but kind of have a different outside-the-box approach to doing things. And I've been having a lot of fun with them. And I've got, I don't know, probably a half dozen projects I've already written for them that are waiting to come out. So, we got some good things coming up ahead.
Nice. That's nice.
Awesome.
All right. So let's talk about this. Let's just start off with Bad Idea. That's the last thing you mentioned. You're coming out with a book called Planet Death. Mm-hmm. What is that about?
So Planet Death is a project that, like I say, I've been working at Bad Idea for a while. Before that, I worked with Dinesh and a lot of the people at Bad Idea when I was at Valiant. And so I have really good relationships with them. And Dinesh also has a good relationship with Derek Kolstad. He is the screenwriter and creator of the John Wick franchise. And so Derek had an idea for a story, thought it might make a good comic. And so Dinesh kind of put us together. And I worked from a document that Derek had prepared and built this story. And essentially it's about a character named Scott who wakes up on a ship. He's been awakened to do a mission on an alien world. And it's sort of a D-Day type story where we live through the invasion of the humans invading this alien world to complete this mission. And they have to destroy this weapon. And if they don't destroy the weapon, they don't get to go home. And so it's a very fast-paced story. Tomas Giarello is the artist, and he's penciling and he's inking himself, which he hasn't done in a very long time. The art is phenomenal, and we're about done with the first issue and still plugging away at it. And so been having a great time working with Derek and Tomas on this.
And how many issues are we going to get out of this book?
It'll be 4 altogether, but they're oversized. They're 40 pages each. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Don't get ideas, Danny. I'm not doing a 40-page comic for you.
Hey, listen, if I can afford it, we're going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen. No, one of my personal favorite issue of Ace Blade is our longer one. You get to put more into the story. You get to slow down the pacing a little bit. And I think that can be good sometimes. That can definitely be good sometimes.
Yeah, no, I love the extra space. And that's one of the great things we're working with Bad Idea, like a lot of times due to the constraints of monthly comics and publishing schedules and sometimes economic factors and things like that, costs and things. When you work for, let's say DC, a 20-page book is going to be a 20-page book, and you got to make the story fit in 20 pages. Bad Idea is very much, I'll turn in the script and it'll be 24, and they'll say, no, make it 32, and then they'll make no, make it 40. They always
Mm.
give more space to it to really let the project breathe, and that's a great place to be in, because these aren't familiar brands like Superman or the Flash or anything like that. This is uh, new content, new characters, new mythology that we're building from the ground up. And so it's nice to have the extra space to really lay that groundwork and give Tomas the space that he needs as well.
I love it. Is there any difference? I know some of these more recent books are coming out in different formats. You got the standard, 662 by 10 comic book format. Is there any difference in your perspective as a writer when you know that the artist has a little more space to write?
Talk about dimensions of the page.
Dimensions of the page,
Yeah.
but also, in terms of length of the story.
Yeah, let's take them one at a time. Dimensions, definitely. So there's another graphic novel that I worked on with Mr. Ballin. He's a YouTube true crime, strange, dark, mysterious stories, and also on Spotify and things. He's one of the biggest podcasters and YouTube personalities in the world. And I'm working on a book with him where I take a lot of his stories and adapt them to graphic novels. And the artist on that is Andrea Moody, who is a artist I've drawn before. He does pencils, inks, watercolors, the whole thing. It looks beautiful. It'll be out October 1st, and that book is smaller. The dimensions of that book are not as tall and a bit wider than a traditional American comic book. And so you definitely take that into account when you're thinking about, a wider page and a shorter page and how many panels you're going to use and what kind of establishing shots and things like that. Bad Ideas books are standard comic book size for the most part. But the page count is longer. And so definitely when you have more pages, especially for a story like this, like I say, you come right out the gate with a D-Day style invasion where these, the human armies descending on a planet and they're getting shot out of the sky and, they're advancing on the battlefield and, clashing armies and ships falling in the ground and exploding and like all this stuff, right? So when you have the extra space, you can really kind of pull back the camera and give it that epic sort of feel that is harder to do when you only have maybe 20 pages, because in 20 pages, you want the first issue to go somewhere and you want it to have like sort of a mini story in and of itself that ends, but also leads into the next issue, which will be its own mini story, right? And so if you only have 20 pages, you got to give the readers a full reading experience, and it's harder to do those big shots. Or, I might have pulled out some of those action set pieces and things, and Derek might have wanted to move some things around and do things differently if we only had 20 pages. So having 40 is great for a story like this.
I do want to let everybody know, we know that your comments are not popping up if you're on Facebook. We don't know what's going on. I've been trying to fix it right now, but nothing is working. So if you guys want to hop over to the YouTube, comments look like they work there, so I apologize. But for some reason, if you're on Facebook right now, it is not allowing your comments to show up. So we apologize for that that issue.
Javon,
If they want, they can tweet me and I'll read their question and answer it. It's, I'm just at Robert Venditti. It's just my name. So if there's anybody that wants to tweet me a question, I'll be happy to answer it for you.
Well, Javon, a good friend of the show, Javon Stokes, said that he loved your Hawkman run. He wanted to make sure that you knew that he admires your work. And Javon, just like Kyron, they both have like an encyclopedic knowledge of comic books. I'm more recent into comic books. I started reading comics as an adult, but those two, they know. It seems like they know every writer, every artist, every story. So those are my two go-tos. Kyron,
Nice.
We fake it a lot. That's all.
Well, first of all, I appreciate it. I'm super proud of the Hawkman run. One of my favorite things I've ever worked on. But I'm like you, Danny. I didn't start reading comics until I was an adult either. I didn't read them at all growing up. So
I read that actually in the interview you did, and it was Astro City that made you really get into.
That was the first comic that I read, and maybe decide that I wanted to try to write them. I always wanted to be a writer. I took creative writing in high school, in college. I got my master's degree in creative writing and things. But I was doing prose writing, fiction. More like literary style fiction, they call it. But I read Astro City and I really enjoyed it. I loved how character focused it was, which were sort of the principles that I was learning in a lot of the writing that I was doing. but that also I like the idea that I could tell a story and somebody would render it into art, you know. Um, so yeah, I started reading comics in my late 20s, mid to late 20s, and then decided I was going to try to write them. And Astro City was what got me started. Yeah.
Nice. Do you ever get that idea of, as you're writing a book, you might think, man, this might be the story that gets somebody else into comics, like Astro City did for me?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Nobody's ever asked me that before. I have had people tell me that something I wrote is the first comic book they ever read. You know, that actually happened a lot with Superman 78. There were so many people that were fans of the film that, you know, had never sort of gotten that version of Superman in decades. And so when the book came out, it had a lot of support from inside, you know, the fans of the Reeve Donner films. And there were a lot of people I met that was the first time they ever went into a comic book store, the first time they ever read a comic book and things like that. And so that's really nice. But I do always try to write everything because I try to write everything from the perspective of every issue was somebody's first issue, because I was that person that was first issue. And after Astro City, I remember going to the comic book store and it was Superman number 800 billion and Spider-Man number 70 million. And it was like, where do I even start? You know? And so the mythologies and things seem very dense and alienating. So whatever I work on, even if it's a character like Green Lantern or Hawkman or something that's been around since the Golden Age, I try to make every issue so that if you have never read this comic book before, you understand everything that's going on. If you have been reading the series, there are things there happening deeper that you realize are carrying forward a story in a way that maybe a new reader wouldn't. So I always try to walk that balance. Doesn't mean I always do it successfully, but it's always my goal.
We talk about that a lot on this show. We interview a lot of indie creators, and you know, just the entry point into, you know, mainstream comics can be kind of, you know, tumultuous for folks who haven't read comic books before. So I think it's great that we have companies like Bad Idea who are making new stories, you know, in addition to all the indie superhero companies out here. You know, Bad Idea seems to be doing, you know, some stuff that's not just traditional superhero stuff, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. They're doing a lot of different stuff. I mean, just the things that I've done for them. Planet Death is sort of a sci-fi war story. I have another book called Ordained that they've announced. It's a very grounded crime story about a priest who uh, uh, gets called to the hospital because a patient has asked for last rites, goes into the room to give last rites to the patient, finds out the patient during the confession is an Irish gangster who confesses everything he's ever done and murders and everything because he's going to die. Yeah. Turns out he has a miraculous recovery, doesn't die. So now he wants to kill the priest because the priest knows where all the bodies are buried. But turns out the priest wasn't always a priest. He came to the Catholic Church after he was a Navy SEAL and something happened in combat. So he's a former SEAL who's now a priest. And so
Got those skills.
completely different than Planet Death, right? And
Yeah.
it's much more grounded, like crime story. And so I have another story I've done for them that they haven't really announced yet that's more of an espionage story. I have a series of stories I've done with them that are sort of noir, unreliable narrator about this guy who is a detective for a fast food pizza franchise chain, and he like investigates crimes that are happening at the restaurant. You know, people stealing out of the till or whatever. And in his mind, he's like, you know, Mickey Spillane or whatever. He's in his mind, he's just this fantastic private detective. You know, but he's, you know, investigating all these small things. And so they really do a lot of different stories there, and that's great because for me creatively, I don't want to do the same story over and over and over. You know, every project I do, I try to do something that's different from what I've done before. And even if you look at the superhero stories I've done, Green Lantern is very different from Flash, is very different from Hawkman, right? Like it's as far as the way I approach those characters. And so I'm always trying to challenge myself and do new things. And if they don't come out as good, you know, maybe I fumble or whatever. That's okay because I'm learning from it, and I'm hoping that I'm getting better as a writer and sort of expanding what I'm able to do. You know.
One of the other series that you're doing for Bad Idea is Tankers, and that recently just got funded on Kickstarter. And I was reading the synopsis on that, and that feels like a crazy ass story.
Yeah.
It's about time travel with a military group and you're trying to make more oil, but then there's aliens that come through. I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah. So it's like a satirical story with elements of sci-fi and things. And the tankers are a team of mercenaries in giant mech suits who work for a company called Greenleaf Oil. And Greenleaf Oil has invented time travel so that they can go back and divert the comet that killed the dinosaurs, so that there'll be more dinosaurs that will die and make more oil, so that we won't run out of oil in the present, right? And so
that
the
is
tankers,
cool.
yeah, so the tankers go back in time and they do that. And when they come back, the future is different. And now they have to figure out a way to set it right. And so we just did a Kickstarter that collects the entire first series, which is about 96 pages, and then has over 100 pages of new story on top of that. And, we did that Kickstarter and it funded really well. So I would hope that would be out pretty soon because everything's already written and most of it's already drawn.
So what kind of drugs were you on when you were writing that? I just want to know.
None, totally straight edge. Yeah. No drugs. Again, like I'd never written a story like that before. And so
I don't think anybody has written a story like that.
yeah, but that's what's fun, right? Like that's what's fun. Like to me, I think if I did the same thing over and over and over, and this is just my opinion, right? There's definitely people out there that will tell you and have very successful careers just staying in the thing that they do and becoming experts at it, And when I did the surrogates and it had the success that it did, I certainly had people advising me to just be the sci-fi guy, man. Just keep doing sci-fi. And I very consciously chose not to do that. The next project I did was a political thriller, and the thing I did after that was to adapt the Percy Jackson graphic novels. And so I always wanted to do things differently. And so whenever there's a chance for me to do something like Tankers, who would I even pitch that to? You know what I'm saying? But Bad Idea is great like that. And they don't just think outside the box in terms of the books that they do, which is very, creatively freeing, but also in the marketing approach. Like I came up with this idea with this really good friend of mine named Brockton McKinney, who's a filmmaker. And there's a place not far from where I live where you can actually go there and drive a tank, and you can operate a backhoe, like a giant backhoe, or you can drive a dump truck. You can run over cars with a tank, and you can shoot a 40 cal machine gun, do all this crazy stuff. And so we came up with this idea that, like, what if I went to this place and I said that I was a method writer. And so before I wrote Tankers, I had to thoroughly research things. And so I went and shot guns and dug for oil and drove tanks and did all this stuff. And so we pitched this idea to Bad Idea, and they were like, yeah, man, what's the budget? And it was like, cool. And so we did this video that you can go find online where I'm shooting inflatable dinosaurs with a 40 cal machine gun. It's crazy, but that's what's great about them as a company. They're a speedboat, and it's a lot of fun. And they have this very open sort of, there are no bad ideas, which I know sounds funny because the name of the company is Bad Idea, but you're always in a position where you can pitch them whatever you want, and they're never going to tell you it's awful. They'll tell you no, but they want you to think outside the box. They want you to pitch them crazy stuff like Tankers or Hank Howard Pizza Detective or whatever. They want those kinds of things. And so it's fun to work there because it's a pretty long answer, but it's like a different set of creative muscles, right? Like if I work for DC and I work on Green Lantern or Hawkman or whatever have you, there are a lot of constraints put on the story, right? You're operating within the mythology of the history of these characters. You know that it has to come out monthly and you have a certain page format. There may be line-wide events or, Green Lantern group specific events that you have to work within and things like that. And a lot of people look at those constraints as a negative thing. I don't, because constraints breed creativity, right? Like if you don't get put inside a box, then you'll never think of a way to get outside the box. Like the creative thing won't happen, right? So that's one set of muscles. Another set of muscles is just complete freedom to do whatever you want, which happens when you do your own story and you create your own thing, and I like to do both. I love the constraints of saying, we want you to do a Superman story, but it has to be set in the specific version of Superman from the Reeve Donner films. And now I have to make that version of Superman, right? That's a great constraint that leads to all this creativity and makes me sit down and say, what would I do with a story? Well, maybe I would make it so that Brainiac took Superman's parents before Krypton exploded and put them in a bottle, which is something I could never do if I was just doing a regular Superman story, because we all know Superman's parents are dead, right? And so I love doing both kinds of work. I think it flexes both kind of muscles, and then eventually, having both of those sets of muscles, I think, make you a better writer overall.
You mentioned Brockton McKinney, and
Yeah.
I live in North Carolina. I'm here in North Carolina.
Oh, no way.
I've seen Brockton at a mini show. I'll just say.
Where are you at in North Carolina?
I live in Burlington.
Oh, okay. I don't know where Burlington is. Yeah. I usually
Close
do NC Comic Con every year. But maybe did you see him in Fayetteville or?
I've seen him at NC Comic Con and at
Okay.
Heroes Con and all kinds of things. But
Oh,
I think
nice.
I first met him when he was doing M Theory with
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Struts, and then the Ginger Dead Man book that he came up with. He has a lot of off the wall ideas. Also,
He is one of the most creative people I have ever met. Like,
Yeah.
I worked with him on a project. We wrote a project together called Savage Squad 6 at Dark Horse. The trade paperback, I think, comes out in September, I believe.
Nice.
It was a mini series, and I'm sort of a very what the word would be, like disciplined, maybe methodical writer. And like, if you think of all the things that you need to have a writer, a story, like a plot and a character arc, and it has to hold up to its own internal logic and all these kinds of things. And you think of those as like the 1 through 10 of making a story. Like, I'm really good at the 1 through 10. Brock is like all 11. Like, he is 11 like all the time. And so his ideas are so big, and like he can just ratchet stuff up in a way that my brain doesn't normally work. And over the years that I've been friends with him, talking story with him and working on projects with him, I've definitely sort of learned how to do that a bit more by seeing how he does it, and almost asking myself, like, what would Brock do here? You know what I mean? And
Right.
He's great. Like I say, one of the most creative people I know. Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Brockton McKinney. I think they just put out a short film last year too. It was pretty.
Yeah, they did. Repchild. Yeah.
Repchild, that's right.
Repchild. Yeah. He wrote it, he directed it, and he did all the music for it, and he edited it. He did all that stuff. Yeah.
I didn't know he did.
Super talented. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, well, I got one more question before we go to get to the quick takes. I see you got some traditional art back there in the back.
Sure. Yeah.
I collect traditional art. It's one of my favorite parts of creating comics.
Yeah.
I know Kyron is a traditional artist. He's working on a project with me with a lot of horses right now.
Yeah.
You might not know the answer to this, but
Sure.
But there's been a lot of push for AI art and things like that in comic spaces from tech companies and stuff like that. Do you know if Bad Idea has a stance on AI art either way, or?
Yeah, I don't know. To my knowledge, they haven't used anybody that generates AI art, but that would be a question for them.
Yeah.
Whoever the execs are, I guess. You know what I'm saying? I've worked for the writer in the capacity. I mean, worked for the company in the capacity as a writer, but I'm not like a staff person at the company. I know that I've never worked on a project that had any AI generated stuff. I love traditional art, like you say. That doesn't mean that I don't also like people who do their work digitally. Mitch Garrett's being a great example of that. I think for some artists, their process is their process. Mitch is certainly not doing anything AI generated. He's drawing it all by hand. He just doesn't generate a piece of paper with pencils and ink on it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I love traditional art. That's just some of the stuff I got. I got more hanging on that wall. I got so many pieces in there that I'm waiting to get framed. So I love that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And Bad Idea, especially tankers, like the what was the one that they were talking, that Dinesh came on to talk about? I can't remember the name, but the giant
probably Megalith.
Yeah, Megalith.
Megalith, yeah.
Megalith.
Yeah, so Megalith is Louis LaRosa. I don't know if anybody's familiar with his art, but one of the absolute best artists in comics, just phenomenal. Amazing. Also, just the nicest dude in the world. Like, Could absolutely have an ego if he wanted, but he does not. Super down to earth, and he's been working on Megalith for a while, and yeah, that's going to be something else when that book comes out. It's getting close.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, the art on all these projects has been just amazing. So that's another thing that I think separates comic books from other media. Like the art will just grab you. If you're in a comic book shop or you're in Barnes and Noble or whatever, sometimes just the art will just grab you and just make you pick it up, I guess.
Yeah, and Bad Idea does a great job. I mean, their books are some of the best looking books on the shelves, not just in terms of the interior art, which they always have great artists working with them, but also in terms of production values. The books always have real nice covers on them, thick stock, matte finish, gloss, spot varnish, all these things, and so yeah, they're really attractive packages. They put a lot of thought into that.
I love it. Okay, Kyron, you ready for quick takes, or you got some more?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Quick takes. I didn't know I was going head to head here. What are we doing? I don't even know. I feel like I'm being thrown into the deep end, man. This doesn't feel like a very fair competition already. It's just I got a clock and that's all I know. Am I running a race? What are we doing? I don't even know.
We're gonna see who can do 100 push-ups. No, I'll just say
I'm out. I'm out.
So, quick takes is a rapid Q&A session where we grill our guests on their deepest, darkest secrets from the internet. No, I'm just playing. Right. We're just gonna ask some questions to let our audience get to know you a little better.
Sure, yeah.
So we're going to do 5 questions, and you have 45 seconds each to answer them.
Okay? Oh, okay, no problem.
Yes,
go for it.
So, question number 1. I saw an Instagram post about some drink tickets and an after party.
Sure, yeah.
Can you give us more context on how that was a missed opportunity?
Yeah, so Bad Idea every year at San Diego Comic-Con, they do a tiki party. It's at the Valley High restaurant. It's right on the water, gorgeous venue. This was my first year being able to go. I think that this is the 3rd year of the party. And this year the theme was Planet Death. And so I got drink tickets when I got there to use because all the drinks are specially made to be themed to the party. So they all had Planet Death type names and things. And I did not get through all the drinks because I was talking too much. And I left with some tickets, and so that's why the tickets were on there. But great venue. There had to be 200-300 people there. It was a great night. Super happy. Derek was there. They had big backdrops and things that we took photos in front of, and so it was a great time.
Oh, that's great. Definitely a missed opportunity. We did get invited to the party,
but missed it. They'll do one next year.
It could be.
Yeah, San Diego's not that far. We want to drive down. I mean.
What's that 4 hours for you or something like that?
It's 7.5 if I speed, 8 if I go.
California is too big. It's just too big.
Yeah, it is too big. It's crazy. Yeah.
Okay. Question number 2. Superman has been around for so long that now we've got evil Superman, Superman from if he was born under the sea. There's so many different types of Superman stories out there. But in your opinion, in 45 seconds, can you give us the core of what a Superman story is?
Superman is a person who always does the right things. It's the right thing to do. And I think a lot of people think that sounds corny for whatever reason. To me, I think that's sad. Superman is a guy who fell out of the sky in a rocket ship, and the first 2 human beings he interacted with took him in and loved him as their own. So how could he not have a view of humanity as being inherently good, And so as far as evil Superman goes, and, Superman take over the world to protect us from ourselves, and like all these other sort of dark versions of the characters, they just don't compute for me. He's an incorruptible character. And the way you write the conflict for him is to put him in situations that challenge his values, more so than some big punch fest,
I love it. I almost shed a tear. on that. I came into comics when Superman was starting to get all these different kind of things, whatever. But Superman is always going to be a great character to me. So, and loved your work on Superman.
My all-time favorite character, even when I was a kid before I read comics, from those Reeve Donner films, Superman was always my favorite fictional character. Not a Batman person at all, I don't mind if somebody likes Batman, but Batman just bores me to death. I don't find him interesting at all. Always been a Superman person.
I'm calling a flag on this, on Danny, because literally our first episode was about how much you hated Superman. So I'm calling a flag on that remark about you liking Superman. That was literally the whole first episode.
We've talked so much. Superman has grown on me from you. You don't remember the discussion we had about Man of Steel and me not understanding it, and I hated it. And then we talked to Michael Watson, and he was giving me the characteristics of Superman. I was like, you know what? He's right. That scene made a lot more sense in the context of him being a child and not knowing that he not wanting to reveal himself and his dad protecting him, and then him going on to. We had this conversation many times, Kyron. Stop it.
Yeah, but now you're talking about he's one of your favorites. I'm like, that's BS right now.
I love Superman now.
All right,
I love Superman now. Okay.
Question 3.
Number 3. Okay. This is a question that we ask a lot of creators. Just because there are different perspectives on it. I know I know my views, and I know Kyron's views, but I want to know what other people think. So, when you go to comic book conventions, there are these big extravagant shows like New York Comic Con, San Diego Comic Con, and then there are your small local shows. I wonder, which one do you prefer, big cons or small shows?
So in my career, I have done well over 100 shows. Like, I don't even, maybe more than 200. I don't even know. Like, I've done a lot. I've done San Diego alone 17 times, right? So the big shows are great for getting together with a lot of colleagues you haven't seen in a while, meeting your editors and stuff that you haven't seen in a while, because we all work out of our houses, and I live in Georgia, so I can't go by the editorial offices in New York and LA or whatever. But if I have a preference to do one, it would be to do a regional show, because I love going to a city I've never been to before, eating local food, seeing what the local place is like, I really enjoy those kinds of things. And I try to do, I would say in a year, I do mostly regional shows. I'll do 1 or 2 of the big ones, and the rest of them will be smaller regional ones,
I love it. I haven't been to either one of those huge big shows, but I think I would like to try them once, but I'm more of a small show guy myself.
Yeah, San Diego's great. San Diego's great for it's really great to go once for sure and just see the spectacle of it. It takes over the whole city. You know what I mean?
Let's go next year. Fourth Wall Productions invade San Diego. Let's do it.
Go to the Bad Idea Tiki Party. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'll go just for that. Okay. All right. So question number 4. So we talk a lot about marketing. When we talk to indie creators, it's so hard. You're facing against the algorithms, and if you're starting up, it's harder to get attention for a project if it doesn't have a name yet. But Bad Idea has done an amazing job with marketing. So in 45 seconds, what would your advice be for indies in marketing?
Think outside the box. I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm any great marketing genius. I've never self-published anything and kind of had to build it from scratch like that. I've always worked with a publisher. But, you mentioned Bad Idea specifically, and as I was saying earlier, they're very outside the box in the terms of how they handle their approach. And I love it. I love to be a part of the marketing like that, and to have the freedom to kind of, poke some fun at myself, and, I don't know, just be like a regular person, which is kind of who I am. I don't think I'm some great literary light or something like that. You know what I mean? And so just to be human about it, and to have some fun with it and think outside the box, I think is a good place to differentiate yourself from everybody trying to say that this is the book that's going to change the world and whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Absolutely. I love it. All right. Last question. So for question 5, we always have our guests do a top 5 list off the top of their head. And I was scrolling through your Instagram, and I noticed that you post a lot of nature. I noticed that you saw the bird box that you have. And stuff like that. So I wonder, in your opinion, I want to get your top 5 nature escapes, the top 5 places to go in nature to just get away from it all.
My favorite is the mountains up in Georgia. the woods up in Georgia. That would probably be my favorite. I went to Yellowstone Park a month ago for the first time. That was amazing. It's like 7 different places all in one. There's so many different landscapes and topographies and things there, and all within driving distance of each other. 10 minutes away, it's completely different than where you were just standing. So that was great. I love I grew up in Florida originally, so I love the west coast of Florida, the beaches there. Even though I grew up on the east coast, the west coast beaches are better. I don't know. I don't know that I've been to other places. I don't think I've ever been to a desert. So those would be my top 3, I guess. Yeah.
Hey, that'll work. That'll work. No, we appreciate you doing that for us.
No problem.
This week, Quick Takes has been brought to you by Gemini Comic Supply. Go to GeminiComicSupply.com and use the promo code AceBlade. You get 10% off your whole order.
I thought you were going to continue on with something.
No.
All right. I will say I did find the video of you on the tank and backhoe. I would
Was it
share
everything that I made it sound out to be? Did I exaggerate at all?
No, you did not exaggerate in any way. Honestly, it reminds me a little bit of Mythbusters. It has that look of a Mythbusters episode.
I could see that. Yeah.
I would share it, but it's off of somebody else's podcast, so I don't want any licensing issues going on there. That's where I found it.
Okay.
But yeah, go. The way I found it, if anybody wants to, is I actually had to type in instructional film, bad idea, Venditti, and that's how it popped up for me. So go check it out if you wanted to see Robert on a tank and on a backhoe and all these other things. But we do want to thank you also for being a part of our show today. This has been a great time. We had fun. Hopefully you had fun too.
Absolutely. Yeah, no problem at all. Happy to come on some other time.
Oh, hey, you guys heard it.
I will come on again in 128 episodes from now.
Dang. I'm booking right now, episode 256. We have Robert back on. No, if you had 257, just to mess with him. If you ever want to come back on, feel free to reach out to us. We will be glad to have you on. But we do want to make sure our audience follows you and keeps up with your work.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the best way to do that?
I'm on Instagram, X, and also Threads. It's just my name, @Robert Venditti. So you can find me there.
Nice. All right. Well, Danny, since the end of the show, where can people follow you and check out your work?
I'm sorry, I was searching YouTube. If you want to find me, the best place to go is fourthwallpros.com. And if you want to find me on social media, it's @TheAceBlade on all social media platforms. Kyron, where can people find you?
Hold on, I'm sending you the link right now that you can watch it later on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You can find me at tauruscomics.com. You can purchase all my books there. You can also find me at all major social media platforms at Taurus Comics. And if this is your first time checking out our podcast, the Four Tales Podcast, you can go to our website. That is the number 4, TALES podcast.com. Again, that is the number 4, TALES podcast.com. You can go back and listen to our previous episodes, especially episode number 1, where Danny profusely says he hates Spider-Man, and there's a whole episode about that. Or Superman, I'm sorry. Superman. And you can check out our other episodes, buy some merchandise, help support us. What? Yeah, thank you.
We're gonna talk offline about that. All right.
But please come back next week. This is gonna be something different. We don't have a guest next week. We're gonna do an end of the month recap between Danny and I, going over what we experienced through the month comic book wise. We might be talking about some of your guys' Kickstarters that you've been sending us by social media, and just have some fun, just a general conversation. But join us back here next week, Friday, the 30th of August, 5 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. But until then, everybody, sayonara, goodbye, and please take care of yourselves.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
I want to know what it is Quick is trying to say.